Welcome to a BW Businessworld dialogue. The world of services, the world of marketing services, the world of media services, the world of services that intersects with technology is growing. Everything is becoming tech. Entrepreneurs are building brands, and on the back of those brands, they're building businesses. You need enablers to build brands. You need advisors to build brands. Today, we are going to talk to a founder, an entrepreneur, advisor to brands and businesses who, through his company Yaap, is advising old and new brands, old and new businesses, new economy and old economy businesses to transform themselves and make them ready for a new digital world. So let me welcome Mr. Atul Hegde, who's the founder of Yaap.
Thank
Atul,
you.
good to talk to you.
Thank you so much, Anurag.
Atul, I've seen your journey for the last 2+ decades. Uh, how did Yaap come about?
I think Yap is one of those ventures which was never planned. Right? I had just exited from the previous venture, launched Rainmaker Ventures with my childhood friend, and Yap just happened that there were a bunch of people who wanted to do what we have anyway been doing for years. Right? So it was just a collection of people coming together. It started off because a couple of clients from the previous organization said that, hey, what do we do now that you guys have moved on? So we said, okay, fine, let's start. And we started by handling a couple of accounts. And then just people started coming, and sometimes what is meant to be is meant to be. And Yap has really been an example of that.
And your tagline at Yaap is built for now.
Yes, absolutely. I
So
think
why? I mean, every agency, every services providing in the marketing space, they are futuristic.
the only way you can be future ready is if you take care of now. Right? It's very easy to do stargazing. It's very easy to talk about the future, but it's all about what you do right now. So we want to ensure that brands, whether it's the consumer connect, whether it's getting ready for tomorrow, if your now is not the right foundation, there's no way that you are ready for future. So we feel that built for now is actually a statement of being future ready.
You talk like a philosopher, Atul. Uh, Eckhart Tolle, who wrote this book, The Power of Now. You have the current moment, seize it, do your
Absolutely,
best, and the
yes.
future will be fine. Now, since the time you started in advertising, marketing services, digital, you were a pioneer. You saw digital possibly 2 decades back. You were part of an agency which was a digital first agency 2 decades back. Then you set up another venture. Uh, how has the marketing services, digital services, ad agency business changed over the last few decades?
I think the biggest change, of course, is digital from being a side show is now the main show, right? I mean, you've been covering this segment. You know how digital has galloped, right, to today being at the pole position. Maximum number of spends happen in this category in India. So that's a big shift, and with that, suddenly everybody is paying far more attention. And when I say suddenly, in the last 5 7 years, it brings a lot of onus on agencies to deliver. Marketing budgets are 20x, 30x, 50x of what it used to be even a decade back when you're talking about digital brands. So I think, yes, the focus is much larger, the game is much larger, so all the big boys are in it. As an independent company, we are up against the big boys. The good news is that large clients today want to experiment, want to work with the smaller players, far more agile, far more innovative. So I think that has changed, right? 20 years back, you have to really go first, tell people why digital, and then tell them why a small agency, right? That has dramatically changed in the last 7 8 years.
Thank you, Atul. Now let's focus on Yap. Uh, what is the USP of Yap?
I think if I
Or
have
what
to,
differentiates you? Maybe USP, the unique selling proposition, which Rosser Reeves talked about many decades, maybe an outdated term, but what is your moat that makes Yap successful?
so the way we look at it, right? If you typically looked at, and because I've been here right from the beginning of evolution of digital agencies, most digital agencies were either media or tech, right? For us, the creative product was the core, right? So the first thing we did at App was we acquired Elephant Design Delhi, right? Because we wanted a very strong design, creative sensibilities. The Roy brothers were running that, in collab with the Pune, Elephant Design. We bought the Delhi entity. So that was the beginning of the DNA. The DNA was said that yes, everything we do has to emerge from that. then over a period of time, emphasis on using data, using tech for analytics. Those are the kind of things which have enabled us. But ultimately, it is about people who understand brands better, people who understand that ultimate that stands out is the creative product. And then we built pieces, right? We acquired Oplify in Singapore, which was, again, a programmatic desk. Now it's a full-fledged media agency. So the idea was that at the core, keep it very strong, not do too many things. So we are not an agency that typical agency that does SEO, does the tech services. We don't do that. We have only three line of services, what we call as design, discovery, distribution. Design is any form of design that you can do. It could be a packaging design, it could be a website, it could be an app. Discovery is basically influencer marketing. We were one of the early players in that. We got into it about 6-7 years back, 5 years back. And distribution is paid media. Started as programmatic, now full edge. So keeping that focus. The other thing is for our size, because we use tech well, because we use analytics well, we are just about 100 people. Typically in our sector, for our size, you would have about 200-250 people, right? So I think being agile is a big need in today's world. I mean, that is really about being built for now.
Thank you, Atul. Now, there are large behemoths, holding companies in this space. Some in the media have disproportionate power. We are talking in a week when the CCI has raided the
Yes.
ad agencies on monopolistic practices or cartelization. The cost of people is going up, the margins are coming down, the Accentures of the world are getting into marketing domain, they are becoming advisors on how technology transformation is happening. So this business is seeing what I call its Nokia moment. There are younger startups
Yes.
and there are behemoths. So how will Yap stand out in such a vibrant scenario?
I think great question, Anurag. For me, I just see opportunities everywhere, right? You spoke about what has happened, with the Competition Commission in the last 1 week. I really welcome that. For long, we've been fighting against the big boys. We've been winning some, we've been losing some. And I find it very strange that for an industry today that talks about 1 lakh crore, the entire size of the industry, if you look at typically how were networks built, American networks were built on American brands, Japanese networks were built on Japanese brands, French networks were built on French brands, right? This decade and going ahead is the time for Indian brands. Indian companies are becoming big, they're going global, right? They're yet to, have that same ethos saying that we will now work with homegrown Indian agencies, marketing services that are among the best in the world, right? And I think that is changing, right? Now, whether it will take 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, I don't know. But for me, that's a great opportunity. Also, when somebody reaches 57, 58, 60% market share, they have to come down from there. You cannot keep on being in a market where you will corner 60, 70% of the market, right? And with the strength of Indian brands, whether it's homegrown, whether it's them going across the world, I think that time is now ours, right? It might take 10, 15 years. So for that, I'm really, really excited. But the core is still going to be that, right? You have to be agile. You have to be ahead of the curve. I mean, the reason today large clients are seeking marketing services agencies like Yap is exactly for that, because they know they cannot get that, right? And built for now is all about that it's about the moment you've decided something, the CMO wants the campaign live in 48 hours. There's no way the big giants can ever do it, right? Here there's an entrepreneurial spirit, people will want to go about it. So for me, that's a great opportunity. At the same time, this also is a time for consolidation for the industry, right? Which is what we are very excited about. And we feel that in the next decade, we can really build a homegrown Indian large equivalent to a WPP or a Publicis or any of these guys who have been around for 150 years plus.
Atul, again, these behemoths or holding companies have grown through mergers and acquisition. At some stage, will Yap starting to acquire even bigger entities than it has done till now?
Absolutely. I think organic and inorganic have to go hand in hand. While we've been had a great run organically, we've been growing 50% year on year for the last 2-3 years. This year also again. But yes, inorganic is going to be a big part of it. One of the advantage that we have is access to capital. Whether it's our own balance sheet or about the ability to go and raise capital. next 5 to 7 years, it's all about buying the right assets in the right markets, not overstretching yourself. I think there's enough to be done in this part of the world. Gone are the days when you really wanted, a two-member office in the US and you announced to the world that, as an independent agency, that you have an office somewhere else. I mean, now it's really about building in this part of the world. Capital is available, right? Investors are hungry to back good founders, to back good entrepreneurs, good track records. So yes, inorganic is going to be the way we're going to define ourselves to build heft as well as add skill sets.
Atul, again, you're saying Indian marketing services company will build on the growth of Indian brands by helping Indian brands grow. But you're going beyond India. You opened an office more than 18 months back in Dubai. You're foraying into Saudi Arabia. Tell us what is the sense you get of the size of the pie there?
So the UAE pie is relatively very small. I think UAE for us was important because we won a global mandate with Dubai Tourism, which is the world's largest tourism brand. We've been working with them now for the last 5.5, 6 years. So it was very important for us to acquire a local asset there so that we were able to service that client very well. The beacon for the Middle East is Saudi Arabia. We all know what's been happening in the last 3, 4 years. It's opened up. It's a large market, 40 million people residing there, large homegrown FMCG brands, tourism, all of that, right? Everything is in the next 20 years is Saudi, Saudi, Saudi for that region. So it's a matter of time for us to be strategically there. We will have our presence up and running by the end of this year. It will be a long play for us. It will take us 3, 4, 5 years to really establish ourselves in that market. But that's clearly a huge opportunity for us to take the skill sets from here, understanding, working on large brands, even in the GCC, even in UAE, to take it to Saudi is a great opportunity for us. And yeah, for me, that's a far more lucrative set than trying to go to Europe, which is completely saturated, or to Southeast Asia beyond that into Australia. This this whole core of from India to Saudi, is a belt that easily will be about 6 to 7 billion dollars in terms of market size, and there's enough for us to build something substantial in this region.
Atul, fantastic. I think Saudi Arabia is an exciting market. Uh, as it opens up and develops further, brands will want to build businesses which are even bigger than what they exist now, and hence
True.
they will need advisors like yours. We're talking at a time when there is a conversation about Yaap going public. You're in the process of filing your DHRP. Uh, why this uh, act at such a early years? You're 5 years old,
We are about seven now. Yes.
7 years old, right? So
Yeah.
you're
So the way we see it, Anurag, is we just see this as one small step towards our ultimate goal, right? We feel there is a great opportunity, and I know when I say this, it sounds really audacious, but I think in the next 7, 8, 9 years, there's a real opportunity to build a billion-dollar market cap services company out of India, right? Going to the markets right now is just one step for us, right? It gives us more efficient capital. It helps us with our inorganic plans. It helps us in terms of retention of talent, attraction of the best talent from the industry. It helps us fight the big boys. It gives us, it makes us a lot more disciplined, right? Because of the compliance that you need to go public. Extremely important when you want to work with large brands, right? So I see this as just dressing up and getting ready, for the much bigger things that we want to do. So I see this as a small step forward for us. It's not, IPOs used to be the culmination of an entrepreneur's journey, a decade back. It's no longer that. I see this as one thing that needs to happen for the next phase for Yap. This will take us to the next 7, 8, 9 years where we want to build something really, really substantial.
so Atul. All the best. Arkiswamy Video did a IPO. Crayons did an IPO. The Guptas based in Delhi, Graphicides did an IPO. In outdoor, Bright
Yes.
Advertising did an IPO, and they're doing fairly well. There are other smaller agencies which are looking to do IPO, some on the SME IPO, and some on the main boards, depending on what their top lines and bottom lines are. So clearly, it's an exciting time. PR agencies, which are also marketing services
Yes.
agencies, are looking to do IPO. So I think it's all in all, a fantastic time to be able to tap capital to grow?
Absolutely.
Now, of course, you'll do a successful IPO. Give us a sense of what's happening in the agency space in terms of the price equity ratios. How do you see this space? How do the analysts you talk to see this space?
So I think it's still very new. There are enough examples. So for example, when we were doing our draft red herring, just to get peer companies is very difficult because it's not apple to apple, right? I mean, if I am in an auto space, or if I am in the new energy space, or if I am in an FMC space, it's very benchmarked. Now here, who do I say is my competition? At one end, it's the WPP boys. The other end could be a new startup who's doing using AI in a great manner. So it's very very vast, right? So there's a lot of education even for the investors and the analysts, which is there. There are few names that you mentioned, right, which can be benchmarks, which are there. Before that, there were a few in the tech space, but in media, you talk about Apple, you talk about InMobi, who came in 4 5 years back and have now built a very large space. So for us, that has been a challenge to spend time with them to make them understand what is it that we do. Also, some of the companies that you mentioned, most of them, as I said, have IPO has been a culmination for them of 25 30 years. For a young company to come and define their ambitions. So yes, a lot of education. A lot of it is about what we have done in this short period of time. In terms of P multiples, Anurag, it's very varied. There are companies, the industry average, if you look at it, with very few examples, maybe not 10, more than 10 15 companies in our sector, which is there, is as high as anywhere between 55 to 60. The average, I would say, is about 30 35, which is there. But there are companies which are great buys in the market right now, which are trading much lower to that. There are companies which are trading at that. But again, these are parameters, irrelevant parameters for us. Yes, we want to ensure that there's great return on investment for our investors. But for me to ensure, how in the next 3 4 years we continue with this growth, how do we do 50% year on year? Extremely important for us. And then that valuation will come. For our sector, still very early days. So if it is a culmination of somebody's journey, please think twice before you want to get into this. If this is part of your growth process, then this is a great way for you to access capital and be part of the whole India growth story.
Atul, now I'm sure the IPO will happen at some stage uh, when you will be galloping in your journey, so to say. What kind of acquisition have you planned or are in your mind? If there are viewers who are agency owners or tech owners or platform owners, because you're building a new age
Yes.
uh, kind of ecosystem, what is the kind of acquisition targets would you
Yeah.
have?
So I think one of the reasons for success for Yap is we've been very true, Anurag, to our three Ds. The design, discovery, and distribution. So our acquisitions are really going to be in these three buckets. So so if you're a great content company out there, doing some great creative work, or you're actually started slowly leveraging AI for content, we would be interested in that kind of company. Doesn't Size doesn't matter. So we are not at that where we are really looking at heft. If you are an absolute great company which does performance marketing or programmatic or any point of media, it sits in our distribution bucket. If you have any kind of technology piece in the influencer content creator segment, which I think is completely going to be disrupted, and it's going to go through the direction which it's going to move away from what it currently is. So if you are a company in that, yes, we would be interested. So for us, acquisitions does two things, Anurag. A, it might open a new geo for us, right, within
Geographical expansion.
yes, we know within the region
There's
that
only
we
one
are in.
geo, J-I-O. He means geographical expansion.
So it either it adds a new market for us, or it strengthens our the three Ds. It strengthens any of that. So for us, it's really looking at that while keeping our eye open for possibilities. Like I'll tell you, there's this great company we've identified, and we'll announce it very soon, which basically uses AI for marketing analytics. And they're only one company, but a very large FMCG players across 7 countries in the Middle East. Right now, it's a small Gurgaon company with 20 people, but of great interest to us because it adds to the core of what we are doing, right? So yes, so those are the kind of things that we'll keep an eye on.
Atul, an entrepreneur's journey is full of learning, it's full of ups and downs. You've done many avatars in the
Yes.
last 3 decades. Uh, Give us a sense of what is the advice to entrepreneurs in this space or entrepreneurs in general.
I think the biggest advice is for entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs in waiting is you have to start now. There is no perfect time. All right. My biggest regret, Anurag, has been that why didn't I become an entrepreneur earlier? Right? Because a cushy professional job just gives you so much inertia, right? So I would say that there is no golden period, there's no good or bad, market conditions don't matter, it's about when do you start, right? The other one is that tenacity, right? We've all heard of how it's important this.
Resilience,
Yeah,
tenacity.
but you need a great ecosystem around you. You cannot build, you can do things on your own, but it can only take you so far, right? If you look at Yap, for instance, we're talking about Yap, we don't have a CEO, we have a partner model, right? The whole idea was we wanted to attract senior people who are entrepreneurial in nature and make them feel as entrepreneurs. So there are senior partners. So our company is structured in a partner model, right? We have a holding co, and then we have senior partners. Senior partners are either defined by a geography location or by a skill set, right? And they all have equity in the holding company, but they work as independent entrepreneurs. So that ecosystem you really need to build because you cannot build this on your own, right? And you need to get the right bunch of people. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons for success of Yap is whoever we've acquired, even after they finish their acquisition, they continue to be part of us.
I agree. So, what are the gaps in the existing agency model that doesn't serve the future?
I think the biggest gap is, the very heavy people model. Like I told you, that if our size of companies typically would be 250, 300, this, right? We have to bring it. Everybody talks about AI for content in our space. I feel in the next 2 years, AI for internal operational efficiencies is going to be a game changer. Anybody who adapts that in HR, in tech, in finance, can become so much more efficient, right? So we are really, really bullish about that. While everybody's tinkering with AI for content and you see bits and bits, in my mind, it's AI washing. The real power of AI is for us to become efficient organizations, right? How do we get our companies ready for access? So I think that is what's broken. The other thing that's I wouldn't say broken, but I feel that especially for independent companies, I think there are some great companies out there, great founders. Their biggest problem is management of finances, cash flow, raising of capital. If you really had to look at the top 100 digital agencies in the country, Anurag, and you have to say that let me now put a filter saying let's do companies which do 10 crores plus EBITDA, you will be amazed how low that percentage will be, right? And that's primarily not coming because of talent. There's some great talent, they're doing some great work working with big brands. It is about this whole financial management. Agencies need strong financial people as co-founders. We have only looked at the agency model as creative being co-founder or a great servicing or a planner being co-founder. That has to change if you have to build a great enterprise. Like today, when we evaluate a tech company, we ensure that there's a tech co-founder, right? I think agencies, especially independent agencies, need a very strong financial person as co-founder, and that will really unlock. So there are lots and bits and pieces of it, but if you are able to put that together, I think the next 20 years, 20, 25 years, I mean, it's just there for the taking.
Thank you, Atul. If I talk to you 12 months from now, 6 months from now, what would have YAP achieved?
I think for us, the being boring is something that we think is extremely important. So business as usual, IPO will come. It should not cause any disruption in the way we do. We'll acquire newer companies. So if 12 months from now we meet, again when we are closing out the year in March, Anurag, in the same office, if it is business as usual, our people are secure, we have helped them grow, we've attracted better talent, our client satisfaction is high, it would be a very, very successful year for us while we've gone through all of this. So for me, those are the benchmarks because again, understand, we are building for that medium to long term.
Thank you, Atul. I'm sure YAP time is now. YAP is built for now. So Atul and his team, his partners rather, would be able to carry on the vision that has been set for YAP. YAP's growth will also mean well for the marketing services domain, and more entrepreneurs in this domain will learn from the success of YAP. So we wish Atul Hegde and the YAP partners all the best in this journey of unlocking value, creating more value, and creating impact. All the best. Keep watching BW Business World. Keep watching BW Marketing World, and we'll be back soon.